Okay, I'm already a little confused. Not that that takes much.
The Tobald Award Selection Committee is coming right here to New York?
Yes, some of them have already arrived.
To win the Tobald Award is the dream of every scientist.
Yes. And you know, I've got a hunch that for the first time in 75 years, we're finally going to have an American winner.
What an honor to be selected.
And what a story. Here are some pictures of the first recipients of the award.
Since when does Jonah get excited about a science award? Seems a little out of character, especially all the smiling. It's scary. Put it away, please. He's assigning different people to different nominees. Peter will check out Dr. Moon, the country's leading geneticist. He's played by our old friend Lloyd Bochner. The committee has passed up Dr. Moon for the award 5 years in a row.
Do you know what he was into? Cloning.
What's cloning?
It's a new dance that Parker's going to teach me. What did you want?
To remind you that you're due downstairs in 5 minutes for the layout meeting.
Layouts, of course. Yes, excuse me. Don't be late, Parker.
Oh, don't worry, Mr. Jameson. I'll be there.
Pete, what is cloning?
Rather than say it's a way of making an exact duplicate of a living organism, he gives her an in-depth scientific answer that leaves her cross-eyed. Maybe he should take her to Dr. Moon's press conference and let her see what it is. But first, we need to watch a mysterious man do mysterious things in an elevator. Have any of you ever been in an elevator that had one of those trap doors in the ceiling? Every elevator I've ever ridden had a bank of lights up there. If there was a trap door, it was pretty inaccessible. These things are a staple of Hollywood fiction, but has anybody out there ever seen one in real life? That's a lot of plastic explosive to blow one little cable, but I guess you have to use that much when you buy the cheap stuff.
Treatments. Barbarians.
Dr. Ketya, Dr. Reichman, please. Can't the distinguished members of the Tobald Committee do anything but quarrel?
How can one quarrel with a man that has the taste buds of a...
No. Unless you want to stay up here and starve, I suggest... Oh, my list. I promised the manager I would bring him a list of the full committee. I must have left it in my room. Please excuse me. You go ahead. I'll meet you in the dining room.
The other committee members haven't arrived yet, so these two don't have anybody to argue with but each other. They're trying to argue with Miss Benson there, but she's having none of it. Morgan Fairchild was on her way to the top at this time. She had a steady role in the daytime drama Search for Tomorrow and was doing lots of guest appearances like this. Her striking looks and almost regal bearing got her noticed in any role she took. The fact that she could also act helped a lot. When she was a child, one day in school she was too shy to present a book report. Her mother enrolled her in acting classes to help her get past that, and she certainly did. Getting a gig on Dallas clinched her fame, and she became well known for playing, this is how she put it in an interview, bitches. She said she loved playing that type of character because you can really let yourself go and get into the character, and there's a lot to explore that nice girls just don't have. I frankly don't know what to make of that, but it worked for her. These days, she's an advocate for AIDS research and equal rights. She's also into anthropology and paleontology. In fact, she said if acting hadn't worked out, she would have been a paleontologist. I think we're all happy that acting worked out. And forgetting that list means she won't be on the elevator when our saboteur blows the cable. I know it seems like typecasting, but he's just such a good bad guy. He can be as scary as you want without half trying. He just smiled while he sent those guys to their doom.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Please bear with me. You won't be sorry. If my experiment goes well, you'll have a story that'll push everything else off the front page.
But he's also giving a press conference as if nothing happened. They're going to watch him clone a frog from a single drop of blood, and it doesn't require a surrogate mother. The process happens in minutes. He has a living frog that's a clone of the original. Questions?
The Toval Award Committee is arriving from Europe in a couple of days to decide whether an American scientist should be awarded a prize this year.
Correct.
Now, for the past 5 years, they have ignored you, haven't they?
To be honest, I would welcome a visit by the award committee. And should they pay me such a visit, I may have a few surprises for them that would make this experiment in frog cloning look like child's play.
Peter is probably the only actual scientist there, and he's pretty sure he knows what Dr. Moon means like that. And it scares him.
File a report and let me know.
Dr. Ketja and Dr. Reichman were the first members of the Toval committee to arrive. I was just taking them. They are lucky to have survived.
They're very lucky.
Peter arrives, and his spider sense can see what happened to the cable.
Hey! No pictures. Parker, what are you doing here?
Oh, Captain, I picked up the message on the police channel. And there's something about that
I
cable.
said no pictures.
Once again, Peter is longing for the day when digital cameras are a thing and some guy can't just come along, rip the film out of your camera, and ruin it. Spider-Man needs to look into this accident. As if. But if they chase him up the elevator shaft, at least they'll find the bomb and realize this wasn't a freak accident. Jonah didn't like the pictures of the cloning experiment. He says frogs don't sell newspapers. The committee and everyone else is having a costume party, and he wants Peter to get pictures of all the cool people. Peter will need a costume, but every rental shop in town is sold out because he's a little late getting there. This calls for drastic measures.
Aunt May, I'm sorry to put you to so much trouble.
Trouble? Won't be any trouble.
Drastic enough so he has to visit his one living relative.
I love it.
Do you remember, Peter?
I used to make all your costumes for Halloween. Ghosts, goblins. Oh, you know, I think maybe your old skeleton costume is still in the attic.
I love you, but really, I was thinking of something maybe a little more grown up.
Well, what kind of a costume would you like me to make?
In the first episode, I said that Aunt May wouldn't be back. As many of you pointed out, I was mistaken. This time, she's played by veteran character actress Irene Tedrow. She had steady work in TV and movies, but she was most at home on the stage. Her career in all of the above spanned 6 decades. I find her a more convincing Aunt May than Jeff Donnell in the first episode. She even looks a lot like Aunt May from the comics. Plummeting elevators just aren't as reliable as they used to be.
You did this. We both did it.
That little surprise he said the committee might be in for, Peter was right. He cloned himself.
You wanted them to die, didn't you? No, never. Admit it, you hated them. Not enough to try to kill them. But I was created out of you, from one of your cells. I am you. No, something went wrong. But I have your mind. My thoughts must be your thoughts. Only part of my personality came through. We're like Jekyll and Hyde.
In the 1970s, there was a short-lived series of books about a Christian detective written by Thomas Brace, however you say that. I heard one person pronounce it Huey, but that doesn't seem right. Anyway, one of the stories involved a cloned man. Our detective Jeffrey Weston asked a good question. Can you clone a soul? If your clone is an empty shell, who knows what might take up residence in it? Especially with Dr. Moon's method, how much of a person's inner being is cloned? Dr. Moon 2.0 says he has everything the original has, memories, personality traits, but he's lacking one thing, a conscience, a moral code, self-restraint. He really is Edward Hyde, the original from the book, not the ridiculous monster we see in the movies.
I was wrong in what I've tried to do. And I'm going to make sure that you don't leave this room. You can't lie to me because you can't lie to yourself. You want them dead.
That includes Lisa Benson. He wanted her on that elevator. Her grandfather is the chair of the committee, and he sent her to be his proxy. That makes her fair game. And our clone is now free to go hunting.
Miss Benson, I know this may sound a little bizarre, but just suppose that somebody was out to get the whole committee, and this accident was just the first step.
That's a terrible thing for you to say.
The committee was the only possible connection between these two men.
Both these men have been on the committee for 5 years. This is longer than anyone except my grandfather. Now, if being on the committee would lead to this, then... No, you cannot be right.
He's been asking her about the elevator accident. The phone gives her an excuse to chase him out before he throws any more logic at her.
Dr. Moon? Well, someone told me you were in the lobby. Why didn't you come up?
I'll explain why when you meet me, but you must come immediately. And without your security guard.
Why? I'm not allowed to go anywhere without him.
This is very important, especially to your grandfather's safety.
He tells her to meet him at a certain address. She has no reason not to trust him. She grew up knowing him and describes him as a kindly man. She does as he says, but she has another security guard that neither of them knows about. The shot hit his hand and he's bleeding. That's an old bank vault. Going in there may be a bad idea.
He's already tried to kill me. Isn't that proof enough for you?
I don't know what to think.
Told you. Those things tend to be airtight, or as good as airtight, so they have limited oxygen. And he has to inform Ms. Benson that all the buildings on this block are abandoned and slated to be torn down. So nobody's coming to open the place in the morning. He just got a sample of Spider-Man's blood. We know what that means. But first things first.
Come on, let's get out of here.
I can't decide if she's terrified or in love. Neither can she.
Let's get you to police headquarters.
What?
You're going to tell Captain Barbera what your friend Dr. Moon tried to do to us.
No, I have nothing to say to the police.
Do you think he was playing games with us in that vault?
I have nothing to say to you or to the police. I don't even know who you are. Why should I trust you? Please just leave me alone.
If he had left her alone, she'd have a bullet in her head. But her head is a scrambled egg sandwich right now. She's known Dr. Moon all her life, and none of this makes sense. Now, you'd think the idea that he cloned himself into Evil Moon would occur to her, but it won't. Without her to corroborate the story, Peter telling Barbera that Spider-Man told him about it ain't gonna fly down at One Police Plaza. Peter is tired of trying to talk to Lisa, so he's going to her grandfather.
Lisa tells me that you speak for this person called the Spider-Man.
I have had contact with him, yes, sir.
And he believes that Dr. Moon is going to try to kill me?
Dr. Benson, I wish you could convince your granddaughter to tell the police what happened to her last night.
And how do you know what happened to me last night?
I told you on the telephone, Spider-Man
Was the one trying to hurt me.
Sure, he was the one waving the gun around, right? They refuse to believe Peter.
I'm a scientist. My life is built on logic, and there is no logic in your accusations.
I'm a scientist too, Dr. Benson. So can you tell me why your committee has denied him an award year after year?
How does that concern you?
I think the reason you passed him by might explain how he was able to be in two places at once on the night of the elevator crash.
That stunned him. Put him on the ropes, Peter.
You were afraid of his experiments and where they were heading, and you didn't want to encourage him. Isn't that right, Doctor? You knew he wasn't going to stop at cloning a frog now, didn't you? He wanted to clone a man, didn't he, Dr. Benson?
I can't speak for Dr. Moon.
I'm a bit of a scientist myself, specifically linguistic science. We call that a cop-out.
If you want an answer to that question, you must ask him.
And by the way, thank you for verifying my suspicions. And now a question from Irving. If you were that afraid of what he was doing, why is denying him an award all you did to stop him? Naughty Moon is using his machine on Spider-Man's blood.
I was beginning to think you weren't here.
What is it? I'm very busy.
I wanted to talk to you when we met at the hotel.
Talk about what?
To discuss what a man like you goes through while he's sweating out the time to see if he's been chosen for the Tobalt Prize.
You seem convinced it's going to happen this year.
After what I've heard and seen, I'd say you were a sure thing.
Dr. Moon isn't so sure. He'll wait and see like he does every year. He says, "Excuse me, I'm in the middle of an experiment."
Doctor, after seeing you clone that frog, I was wondering, do you think it'll ever be possible to clone a man?
I haven't time to waste on fantasy, Mr. Parker.
Is it fantasy? Dr. Moon, I have some theories that I would love to bat around with you. Now, maybe if I could stay and watch while you conduct your experiment.
Sorry, not tonight.
When?
When I'm less busy.
Don't forget now. I'll come back anytime.
If his spider sense isn't screaming like a fire alarm right now, it may need recharging.
Spider-Man Peter Parker. Mr. Parker goes to the head of the list.
As I said, he's Peter, spider powers and all.
It's amazing. You have the same personality traits I do.
Don't you think Parker has a dark side, too? You know, I know Peter is no fashion plate. But these clothes are ridiculous.
They'll do until you get into a real costume. Does he keep them in his apartment?
Now, where else would we keep them?
Evil Nicholas Hammond creeps me out a little. He's way too convincing.
I'm gonna need this. And this. There isn't any utility belt.
He loaned it to Batman. See, the Joker switched Batman's out for this goofy one, and it was a big mess. Spidey was glad to help.
Maybe he doesn't have a spare. But don't worry, I think I know where you can get one.
He means the costume ball. He figures the OG Spider-Man will be there. And he will be, but not a Spider-Man.
You look just like Errol Flynn. Very dashing.
You made these?
Oh, no, I found it in the attic. Your Uncle Max bought it for a Halloween party. I just cleaned it up a bit.
Boots and all.
Don't you like it?
Oh, yeah, I like it. I love it, Aunt May.
She wants him to try it on so she can be sure it fits, but he has to rush off, so he'll take it with him.
Oh, wait a minute, Peter.
What is it now, Aunt May?
I forgot part of your costume. Here it is.
It's perfect. It's just perfect. Thank you.
Let's see Jonah get in his face now.
That is not bad. How could you have done this to me?
She didn't done anything. You done did it to yourself. She told you to try it on while she could do something about that. He'll be going as Spider-Man after all.
Gotcha. Game's up, Parker. We know who you really are. Hey, relax, Pete. It's your reflex whatchamacallit. It's a dead giveaway.
It's a beautiful costume, Rita.
Oh, you know, that would have sounded so much better if you'd have just said, you look beautiful, Rita. But I guess I'll just have to settle for what I can get.
Rita, this is Peter. Talking good isn't his strongest field of science. That was what he meant, but he has a knack for finding the most awkward way to say it.
Hey, you better get on in there and get to work. Mr. Jameson has this thing about employees earning their keep.
I know what you mean.
He doesn't need to worry that someone will realize he really is Spider-Man.
Huh. Miss Benson?
Until I came to America this time, I didn't know what a Spider-Man was. And now I see 3.
That would be why. We have the original, the clone, and that other guy.
That's right, Peter. I'm you, and you're me, and this is a gun.
And the gun.
So let's go outside and get a little air. Put your mask on. Move.
Mean Moon is waiting for them on the roof.
So, what's it going to be? Spider-Man tries one of his daring feats and fails, taking a fatal dive from the roof of the Hotel Blackwell? We do think alike. Well, almost.
Now we can't tell them apart. The fight rages all across the roof. There are moments when you think you know which is which, but let's not kid ourselves. We're not supposed to know. Somebody put a lot of work into keeping us from knowing, and we should just respect their hard work and wait for the outcome. That's what Dr. Moon is doing, as if he can do anything else.
Two down. Parker and Spider-Man, right?
Wrong.
That is Lloyd Bochner's famous "oh crap" expression. The next question: there is no official record of this guy existing. How does the law deal with him?
Help me. Bring it. Help me. Get Dr. Moon.
That was an academic question because I have a feeling the law will never know he existed either. What's happening to him?
The acceleration process. I'm dying as quickly as I was born.
That seems awfully convenient. A little Deus Ex Machina with your coffee, sir?
He can't help me know what can happen.
I'll tell him his plan for revenge didn't work.
Oh, it wasn't his plan. He had nothing to do with it. Nick,
the committee understand. He's
In a remarkable twist on an old trope, he didn't turn to dust and blow away. Captain Barbera kind of wishes he had.
Okay, Spidey, old pal. We find an old man up on the roof dead. We find Dr. Moon zonked out in his lab. Then we get a call from you telling us you'll tell us everything once we get down here. Start talking.
Get your hands off me, Barbera.
Captain Barbera to you, Spidey.
Mr. Jameson.
He really thinks Spider-Man is built like that? Plus, he's seen Spider-Man's mask up close. He knows it's not a Kmart special.
Hold it. Put that camera down, Parker.
But, Mr. Jameson, you said this is what sells newspapers. Action, violence.
Smile, Mr. Jameson.
Now, hold it, Mr. Jameson, just like that. One more.
Looks like front page above the fold material to me. The clone's death still bugs me. Wouldn't Dr. Moon have seen this happening in his frogs? Shouldn't he have expected it? It seems to me an end like that would convince him not to clone himself. But even if he did, wouldn't the clone know about it too? So many questions, such a disappointing wrap-up. I did like how we got rid of the Spider-Man clone. What happened to him is why I don't go ziplining. If I get cremated someday, I'll do it the usual way, thank you. Living organized. Rental and shop is rent 70s. Meet him as a one police pal. Down at who? Didn't turn to dust. Written by. Never mind.